Today I'm going to be chatting with Carly Watkins and talking with her about her passion for fishing, hunting, the outdoors, how she got into it, and also why she chose a diesel truck to be able to help her go on these adventures. So I'm definitely looking forward to chatting with her today and learning more about her passion and her reason for picking diesel. Before we get to it, I want to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors that help make the Diesel Podcast possible. The first is Target Sports USA. If you go to targetsportsusa.com/diesel PC, it'll take you right to their membership page, which is $99 a year, and during that time you get free shipping, whether it's 1 box, 20 boxes, 50 boxes. And if you're into other hobbies besides trucks like myself, you know how quickly shipping fees can add up, so it's a great way to save money. Plus, they give you an 8% discount instantly for anything on their site that you're going to order, and they also have promos throughout the year where you can get up to 16% off. Also, if you're looking for something maybe you can't find locally, you get in-stock notifications first when they get inventory. Part of the membership is you get entered into win 2 giveaways. One is an all-expense-paid hunting trip in Colorado that includes airfare, accommodations, the licensing, also complimentary meat processing, and shipping back to you. It's a once-in-a-lifetime trip. You're automatically entered for it, which is really cool. Plus, every year they give away an F-150. So if you're looking to keep some miles off your vintage Cummins Duramax Power Stroke, need a new daily, something to take into the outdoors, you're automatically entered in to be able to win that truck as well. Let's go to targetsportsusa.com/dieselpc. You'll find all the details there. Also, our friends over at Kershaw Knives have a 40% off MSRP code for you. If you use code 2024 diesel40 at kershaw.kaiusa.com. It's a great way to save some money, get some really cool gear. If you're in the market for a knife for hunting, fishing, EDC, something around the job site or around the house, they've got you covered with a bunch of different choices to meet any budget and options for different opening mechanisms, blade steel, blade shape, different handle designs. So head on over, check them out, use code 2024 diesel40 for 40% off MSRP. All right, let's get to today's podcast with Carly and chatting with her about her passion for the outdoors, fishing, hunting, and why she chose diesel to go on these adventures. Carly, welcome to the Diesel Podcast. I'm looking forward to chatting with you today. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing, and it's great to be able to connect with you. And I wanted to learn more about your journey with the outdoors, a little bit of truck talk, and what your vision is for what you do. Yeah. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I was honored to be asked.
Your page is really cool. There's so many cool fishing pictures and other things that you do. And then in talking with you a little bit, it got me really excited because I think when people see a passion and excitement for something, we want to learn more. And it translates so much to other things that we do, whether it's trucks or business or the outdoors or really anything. So I wanted to learn more about you, learn more about your journey into the outdoors, into fishing. How did that all start?
So by day, I'm a dental hygienist. That's what I do. That's my 9 to 5. But I'm from Maryland, born and raised, and I grew up, going to the beach, going to the bay. I mean, Maryland crabs are a huge thing in Maryland here, and so just growing up near the water, on the water. I was lucky enough to grow up in an area that was super outdoorsy, a lot of farmland, a lot of just outdoor things that you could get into as a kid. So for me, my passion has always kind of been there, but I think in the last probably year and a half, it really took off. And a lot of that had to do with moving directly on the water. I mean, Stony Creek, which is the body of water that I live on, it's in my backyard. So getting the boat, having a truck to be able to pull the boat, all of those things sort of tied into what triggered that for me. And it started off as a hobby, and it still very much is a hobby for me, but it really took off when I met the guys from Hogfin. They're a local merchandise brand that a couple of my buddies that are big time bay fishermen started, and seeing what they were doing and seeing a local company, with people that I knew personally and and all the competitions that they were doing, and they were getting themselves out there, that sort of sparked my desire to want to get out there and try doing it on my own, and just the people that I've met along the way. So all of that is sort of what ties into where I got started.
One of the things that when I think back to some hobbies or passions that I have, trucks is obviously one of them, but then also the outdoors. And I think as I've gotten older, what's really captivated me with it is, say if I go fishing and I'm on a lake or something like that, all the noise from day-to-day life or all the stresses are gone, and I'm just focused on what it is I'm doing or a view, or sometimes it's the trip up there. If I'm going with family or friends, it's the road trip. Is it very similar for you being so close to the water and just being there where it's just like a quiet time and it's almost like you recharge?
Yeah, for sure. I used to be a gym rat, and that was sort of my time to unwind and relax. And then once I started getting more into fishing, and especially the kayak fishing that I do, I would say that because you feel so at one with nature and with I mean, you see everything. You're inches from the water. You know, you're literally almost sitting in the water, and all of those images that you think of, and the smells, and the just the like you said, the time away from the hustle and bustle of the, just industry in general. I think it's the only thing that has ever allowed me to clear my mind. Like I'm not thinking about anything else when I'm out there. And even the gym, I mean that used to be my me time and like the time where I could shut it all down. But even that, your every day would sort of creep back up into my mind. And then once I discovered fishing and just outdoors in general and got more into it and really, really unlocked that passion, that is 100%. It takes you away from yourself, and it's wonderful.
Does that also lead into different types of fishing? Because I live in a landlocked state and you have a lot more access to really cool places to fish than I do. And maybe learning a different type of fishing strategy or technique.
Definitely. Um, so in Maryland, we're blessed with so many different types of fisheries. I mean, we have one of the most incredible fisheries in the world. Um, but you have the access to the freshwater, the ponds, the rivers, and then you've got the tributaries that lead into the bay. The Chesapeake Bay is, one of the most important ecosystems in Maryland and really at the East Coast. So it's such a diverse fishery that you really can get into a lot of different types of fishing, and depending on what you like. I mean, I don't really discriminate, I like all sorts of fishing, and I'm big on taking opportunities to learn. So anybody that's willing to show me a different technique, I'm willing to, and I think that's what's kind of cool about this being a newer passion of mine, is that I wasn't brought up doing just one type of thing. So it's opened me up to a lot of different types of fishing. So you got the bay, all these trophy size striped bass. I mean, the fishery actually just it's closed right now. April 1st was the last day, or I'm sorry, March 31st was the last day for catch and release. But all of those giant trophy rock, we call them rockfish in Maryland, but striped bass were going through. So I'm taking my boat out there and fishing for them out in the bay. But on that, I mean, literally that same day, I could take my kayak to a backwater river and freshwater fish, or the snakeheads are big now, which they're an invasive species that were introduced about 20 years ago in Maryland, and those you kind of need a kayak to fish for because they're more shallow water. So just so many different types of fishing, and I mean I could go on for days about what we can do here in Maryland. So we're very blessed to be in such an area where you can really do it all.
Where,
Offshore. I mean that's a whole other, ball game
yeah,
is offshore.
where have you found that either learning these new techniques or these new areas, do you find that the community is very receptive to help, or is it something where you just get determined to try something new or fish a different way and you just learn it on your own, or how does it work with the community itself and learning these different either techniques or these different areas?
Initially, a lot of what I was doing was self-taught. I just did a ton. I mean, luckily we have a lot of access to a lot of good articles and local guys that do put out really good reports and articles about how to get started and how to get going. YouTube's a great resource. But so initially, yeah, I did do a lot of self-research, and I would say my real passion started when I caught my first snakehead, and that was completely on my own. I mean, I borrowed a neighbor's kayak. It was a rinky-dink sit on top paddle kayak. I have a pedal kayak now, which is a little bit nicer, but that was all me doing the research, driving out to where I had an idea of where they were at, because everyone's real secretive with snakeheads, especially because they don't want the competition. So I had to kind of figure out where I should go to start, but I just looked up how to fish for them, and luckily they're a lot like bass. They go for a lot of the similar bass lures, that like largemouth and smallmouth, like those types of techniques. But I went out there, was out there for probably 8 hours or more, and it was in the heat of August because they're summer biting fish, and snagged my lure 100 times, and I was so frustrated and I was ready to call it a day, but then I hooked up to one, and from then on I was like, yep, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do. But since then, and since getting started, I've been really lucky to have met a lot of people that are very receptive to teaching and to learning. And you've got so many charter companies out here that they have some of the best, captains in the world, and just accessing those and utilizing the local guys that go out there and do this every day, you can learn so much from them. And I've been very grateful and very blessed that I've been surrounded by a bunch of people that have been more than happy to teach me and to learn and show me different types of techniques that they do, because everybody has kind of their preference, so you got to figure out what you like and what works for you.
There's so many different similarities I see between what you just described and then the motorsports industry or the automotive aftermarket, in that a lot of times when I get a message from a listener and they're really passionate and they want to do this for a career or they want to be more involved, they can run into that competition part that you mentioned where maybe the information isn't flowing as well between people, and they get to this point where they either get discouraged and don't do it, or they take it upon themselves and just they're self-taught. And they can also hit another wall a little bit farther on from that where you think, well, I had to teach myself how to do this. At what point do I venture out and either ask for help or just try to learn? And that's another area that they can get stuck in. Where would you say, or what are some helpful tips you would tell someone when they want to learn more about either an industry or a community or a hobby, to be able to access people who are willing to share information? Is it like going to tournaments, going to events? Is it going to maybe community things that are going on? Or what helped you to do that?
I think getting involved in the community is a great start. So the CCA, which is the Coastal Conservation Association, it's all up and down the East Coast. And those people, not only do they have a passion for fishing and the fisheries, but they have a passion for conservation and maintaining this fishery so that we do have access to do it. But things like that, people that are passionate, going to things like boat shows and meeting uh, local people that are doing it or doing it well, or utilizing small business. I mean, especially in Maryland, I can't stress enough how important the fishery like ecosystem is, but also the economic system, and reaching out to those people that know what they're doing, have been doing it forever, utilizing their service, but also, don't just go on a charter just to, go and have fun. I mean, ask the captains, what are you using? How, what type of rod are you using? What type of line are you using? Why do you do it this way? Why do you do it that way? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you why it is that they do what they do and why they're doing it. And the more questions, I think being willing to ask questions is the biggest thing too, is you have to get over your ego, and you have to, and I think that's a nice thing about being a woman. And I think why so many people are willing to help is that a lot of us are not as ego driven as some men can be, and we're not as stubborn in the sense of that we can ask for help, and we're okay with, being taught something, and we're not going to be like, I know, I know, I know. Like, you have to be willing to be receptive to the information. And I think when people see that and see that you have the passion for it, people that have been doing it a really long time are going to be more willing to help you when they see that you're serious about it. And for me, that means going to conventions, going to boat shows, going to a local tackle store. I mean, you have to figure out what it is, like whether it's cars or trucks, or whether it's, fishing or hunting or whatever the case may be, just networking and putting yourself out there. It's hard for a lot of people, but it pays off in dividends if you just can kind of muster up the courage to just kind of put yourself out there and not be afraid of rejection. There's a lot of people that are going to tell you no, or, tell you to screw off, but there's going to be that one person that doesn't, and that does want to take an interest and does want to help. And those are the people that you have to kind of keep in your circle and also reciprocate it. I've been given a lot of information and given a lot of opportunities. So that's why I'm doing things like volunteering and getting involved with a lot of nonprofits and trying to give back, because I know not everybody can do this, or they're not in a position to be able to do that. So I try to give back as much as I can. And I think when people see you do that, that's what's gonna get you to where you need to be.
That's a really great point. I think about being involved and being willing to accept either rejection or no, or, you might reach out to 10 places and maybe only one gets back to you, but you can turn that one place into so much opportunity. And I think that's where with these hobbies, and I didn't grow up in, with trucks, or I'm not a mechanic by trade or anything like that. It was something I loved, but it was also foreign to me. So I had to be a little bit self-taught, and then get to that epiphany where I need to be humble and start asking questions and start learning and start listening. And you can really get a lot of information. And you mentioned something, another similarity is you talked about women in the outdoors, whether it's fishing and hunting. And I see that on the truck side, the automotive side. There's a lot more women from when I started 10 years ago that have their own trucks, that have built them, that have taken them to SEMA, that race them. How do you see the future just growing more with women in that sport or in that hobby? Because I see it definitely on the automotive side, and I'm curious what you're seeing.
Absolutely. More and more every day I see it. Rapala, I know that they're a big lure company, fishing company, and they've uh, made it their mission kind of to recruit more women in terms of giving sponsorships to and things like that. I see it all the time. I mean, one of my best friends, Captain Kayla Hale, she's out of Towson, Maryland, but she runs River Queen Guide Service, and she's a female captain, and she's been doing this forever. She's one of the best anglers that I know. And people in this area know her, respect her. She's incredible. And she is so knowledgeable, and seeing people like that, and seeing people, that are like myself and a couple of my other girlfriends that are all on the Hogfin pro staff ladies team, I think more and more you're going to see more women being like, oh, like I can do this. Like I don't need to just go out on my husband's boat or go out on a charter in order to do this. Like you can get out there on your own and do it. And there's a lot, and women especially are very willing and eager to help and to want to um, help you succeed, because it is such a male dominated industry. So I think the future of all of these things, whether it's hunting, fishing, whatever, that were typically male driven, you're going to see more and more females getting involved.
Common question we get from you guys a lot is, hey, I need a diesel engine. I either, I can't wait this long to get one, or normal place I get stuff from it just takes too long, or they don't have the parts in it that I need. Maybe my truck's not stock, or I tow heavy with it. I don't want to go back with just a stock engine. DFC Diesel is a sponsor of the podcast. We worked with them, hand in hand on doing episodes, answering technical questions. They have a complete lineup of Cummins, Duramax, and Powerstroke remanufactured engines that are set to a standard of ISO 9001 2015 standards, which is a huge deal in the aftermarket. And there's certain levels of quality testing, validation that are required for that. So when you get one of those engines, the type of quality that's built behind it, with an industry-leading warranty that's really comprehensive. And the other thing with that is, sometimes the options that are out there, it's a basic OEM engine. You want a little bit more. You don't want to have the same failure again. So there's a bunch of different series of engines that they have, from core, street, tow haul, and also the Speed of Air series, which we've covered on the podcast before. There's a lot of really cool benefits to it. And if you have questions about that, reach out to them. If you don't know the type of engine that you're looking for, if you go to dfcdiesel.com, there's a ton of info there. You can send an email or you can reach out to them. Also, they're working with Speed of Air pistons, which it's the only piston that pays for itself. And there's a lot of really cool technology behind it. So you can add that into your build and be able to get better fuel economy, increase power, increase torque, and better engine life out of it. Some of the most common engine applications or series of engines that they have with that lead time, a lot of them are in stock or they have really short lead times. So you can check your favorite retailer or go to dfcdiesel.com, check them out, see what's in stock, see what you can get. If you have questions, maybe you want to do something that's outside of the normal series of engines, they have tons of choices for rods, cranks, pistons, valve train upgrades, tons of different things. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure and head on over and check them out. I think what's so important, about what you do, and I saw it through your social media, but in 2024, and it's been like this for a long time, there's so much technology that we have with our phones, computers. It's so easy to just get trapped in them and trapped in technology. And we can forget about all these amazing spaces or waterways that we have, and the future is really getting more people involved. And talk about it on the podcast a little bit, is bringing more people in. And when you were telling me that, I was just thinking, with this guest we had on, she is a drag racer and she wins and she has a really competitive vehicle, and somebody maybe in the stands, there might be a little girl there that sees her and goes, I can do this. I want to be like her when I grow up. And I think it's probably similar there as well, where you can look at it and say, this is something I can do. I can, either make this a business or maybe it's a hobby or whatever direction I want to go. I can see it happening, and you're bringing more people in.
Exactly. I mean, and talking about the little girl in the stand, that's something that I really aspire to continue to do. And I'm hoping that I am doing a little bit. We'll be at a boat show August 12th through the 14th. It's the Annapolis Bay Bridge Boat Show, but the ladies and I are going to be there from Hogfin, and we have our own separate booth. And the guys at Hogfin were super encouraging of us, like kind of promoting our own brand, not just supporting them. But one of the things that I really thought about and set out to do was any little girls that are there with their dad, whether they want to be there or not. Because I remember like my dad dragging me to trade shows and stuff like that when I was a kid. But to make it fun for them, I had all these ideas of what I could do to make this more interesting for young girls and things like that. So I recruited my grandmother and I had her make me all of these little handmade nautical themed bracelets, but to hand out. But in addition, Hogfin was nice enough to give me some the UV protection performance shirts. And I was like, that's perfect. I can give those, like, just to make it just something special, something that that little girl's going to walk away from and be like, oh, I remember her. Like, that was cool. And whether she gets into fishing or not, like, that's neither here nor there. I would love to see that. But just to remember like a good moment at something like that may not necessarily be something that they wanted to do in the first place. And I think more and more you're going to see people trying to encourage our youth, because you mentioned it before with the social media thing. I mean, we have all this technology and it's incredible and it's amazing and it can do so much good. But at that same token, I feel like, at least from what I see, a lot of our youth is getting sucked into it. And I'd like to see it be used for good and inspiring people to get outside or do something with your truck or get involved in racing or whatever it is that you're passionate about, but maybe take away from the screen time a little bit and actually go out and do the things that you're seeing on social media, not just scroll, 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 scroll.
Yeah. It was something a while ago. I had went to the mountains to go fishing, and where this particular lake was, I had no cell phone signal. And this was like 7, 8 years ago. And it was almost like, what do I do without, I can't go on the internet, I can't check my email, I can't make a call. But then I think back to growing up, that's how it was. We didn't have cell phones. And we would just go to the lake. We knew where we were going to stop and have lunch. We knew where the fuel stations were on the way back. And so I think it's incredibly powerful, I think, to use both. And I did want to ask you about social media, because for somebody who's thinking about pursuing or being more involved in a hobby, you get to this point where you got to create a social media page, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or any of that. And it can be so intimidating that first time because you're showing your hobbies, you're showing your personality, you're showing yourself and what you like to do. And it's so scary because who's going to see it? 500 people, 500,000 people, 5 million people? It can just be like, oh man, I can't believe I'm putting this out there. Did you go through when you were going to create a social media page? Was it scary for you or was it exciting? How did you approach it?
It's scary. I mean, it was exciting but scary because I was never a very big social media person prior to getting involved in this at all. I mean, I had maybe 7 posts on my personal Instagram account, and I didn't really even know how to work Instagram. I was not, I mean, you can ask all my friends, like I was the worst because they would send messages and I'm like, I don't go down Instagram. I don't even have the app on my home screen. Um, so for me, it was scary because A, I didn't really know what I was doing. B, I'm not a super private, like I'm very open with my community and my friend, like the people that I know on a personal level, but I was more private in terms of what I was willing to put on the internet. And I really, but when I got involved with it, I wanted to make sure that everything was genuine. Like I'm not going to be that person that is posting stuff for the sake of posting it. Like I wanted it to be me and I wanted it to be, representative of like how I am and my aesthetic and what I wanted to do and all of that. And I was lucky enough to be a part of a fishing tournament it was last October, and it was the Tiki Lee's Rockfish Tournament, which is a big tournament for rockfish on the East Coast. And I happened to meet Heather Smith, who was a contestant and a competitor on Naked and Afraid. She's on the Hogfin team, and she came out with us and she went fishing with us, and I got to meet her. And she's, all over social media, and she has this incredible following and this incredible network of people, and she's telling me about all these amazing things that she's been able to do and accomplish because of doing that. And hearing her story was incredible, and she's the one that sort of prompted me into getting more involved with the social media aspect. And I was like, I don't know, like I just kind of like doing my thing, and especially with fishing because people get so weird about not blowing up spots and stuff like that. Like I got to be real careful with what I'm posting because I don't want to piss off, the local community by giving away too much. So, but she walked me through the basics and the process, and I have to thank her because I mean, she really took time out of her bit crazy schedule just to help get me started. And she walked me through, and she was the one that just said, just be yourself. She's like, don't feel like you have to do anything. She's like, this is your world. This is your wheelhouse. You just, you post what you want to post. And luckily, after you do it for a little bit, you get the hang of it, and you get the hang of how to not make it like a task. Like I'm sorry, my dog keeps running behind me, but yeah, you just learn how to do it in a way that it becomes natural, because that was my other big fear. Was I didn't want to take away from my fun and my enjoyment of the sport because I felt like I had to make a post, or because I had to do this, or because I had to do that. Like I still wanted it to be fun. And so far I've been able to manage that balance, and hopefully just continue growing my following and my reach, because the whole reason I decided to do this was to hopefully inspire more women. That's the goal. Inspire more women, but also, I mean, just, you know, get a lot of opportunities that I might not have had otherwise. And so far, it's been crazy because I literally just started these professional pages back in January of this year. And already the amount of just network opportunities I've had, and the amount of travel opportunities and just things that I was able to get involved with, and the people that I've met in just this short, amount of time has been incredible. So I'm super, super grateful for that.
What's that been like when because I'm thinking of your story and this connection to the outdoors that you have, and then wanting to learn more, networking, and having fun with it. And then within 3 or 4 months, now there's companies, there's sponsors, there's partnerships that are starting to come up. Was that kind of out of left field? Like I didn't expect this. How have you handled kind of that business side of it and these partnerships.
I definitely wasn't expecting it so soon. Eventually I was hoping that that would be the case because the more companies and the more businesses that I get involved with, the more opportunities that I'm going to have to be able to continue doing, what I like to do and also continue making content and things that I hope will prompt more people to get involved. And part of what I'm trying to do is get more involved with the learning side of things, and teaching side of things. I want women to be able to look at my stuff and like if they have a question they can ask, or if I can make videos that teach things that you wouldn't normally do, like backing in a trailer. Like I just recently started getting decent at that, and learning that concept, because that's a whole other, realm of driving and trucks and all of that, is backing in a trailer, backing in a boat trailer, especially at a launch where you got people looking at you and it's intimidating. And it's
Yeah.
already one of those things that people make tons and tons of videos making fun of people for doing. So if I can if I can have more opportunities like that, then I can make more content like that. So the amount of people that I've networked with and have reached out to me it's overwhelming, but in a good way. Like I'm very humbled and honored that people would want to get involved. And a lot of the companies that I have worked with are local, which I think is super cool. And I think supporting smaller businesses and building relationships with each other and trying to help each other out, that's something that's super important to me. So the opportunity, for me to be able to do that has been really, really awesome.
Where I see this full circle is being able to teach and bring in more people, and through social media, through a larger reach, you can reach somebody anywhere in the country or North America, or really even the world, and they might not have access, either the way they grew up or their friends or the kind of environment they're in, to learn how to catch this particular type of fish or to fish this particular type of water, but they can kind of be not necessarily self-taught, but you can give them the direction to be able to say, this is how you can do it, this is what worked for me. And so the net that you can cast is just so much larger through your social media and through what you're trying to do.
Definitely. Definitely. And that's what I'm grateful for with the social media aspect is, even though I wasn't super excited about it initially, um, the opportunity that it's afforded me, and just like you said, like the networking, I mean, it's social networking, and I feel like when you use it for that purpose and you are able to get and meet people. I mean, just like meeting with you, we never would have had this opportunity if it wasn't for social media. We're on opposite ends of the country, and here we are talking and meeting and having this discussion. That's the amazing thing about social media and the amazing thing about technology, connections that I would never have made otherwise. And even reconnecting with people that I knew previously, and bringing us back together. Like I had, a friend of mine from high school that we hadn't spoken in probably over 10 years reach out to me, and he saw that I was super into fishing, had no idea prior, and wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't been making my posts. And we went out and had these incredible adventures and days, and I got to learn from him and meet some of his people that he fishes with and all of that. So that's the beautiful thing about it. And as long as I continue to tell myself, because you've got people on there that want to make comments and do things and be snarky, and that's fine. But all of the good is much more, it's much more positive than it has been negative, at least in my situation. So that's what keeps me motivated to do it.
You'd mentioned backing up a trailer, getting the boat on the boat ramp. And I know from chatting with you before, you use a diesel truck to do it, but I wanted to know more. Why did you pick that particular truck? Have you always liked, Dodge or Ram? Were you always interested in diesel, or what made you pick that truck?
I grew up with diesel. My dad had a F-350 four-door diesel dually, a 95. So it was that boxy, just loud, snotty truck that I used to love. And that's one of the trucks that I grew up driving. And that's what I learned how to drive on, because he was like, if you can drive this, he's like, you'll be fine. So I grew up, my dad is a big car guy, big truck guy, big motorcycle guy. And I was always the tomboy growing up. You know, my brother, it's funny because I was always out in the garage with my dad and watching like all of his Discovery Channel shows and stuff back in like the early 2000s and the 90s. And my brother wasn't super into it. He was into his own thing. And he still likes like the outdoors and stuff, but I was daddy's girl. So I grew up with that sort of that innate just being around it all the time. Um, and diesels are reliable. They're made to run. They're made to haul heavy stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, like the sound of them, the smell of them, the smell of the exhaust, like I loved all of that. So I grew up kind of I never really discriminated. I'm not one of those brand snobs, just like I'm not with fishing. You know, I like what works. So I grew up driving a Ford diesel, and then my first truck ever that I bought on my own when I first got my license was a 2002 GMC Sierra with a I think it was a Flowmaster exhaust, so it wasn't a diesel, but that was my first car. And then when we got the opportunity for this Ram, it's a funny story. It was owned by a buddy of ours, and he was getting a new truck, and he offered it to us. And this is, I mean, we couldn't say no. He gave us an offer we couldn't refuse, and it was perfect because we had just purchased our new boat. So to have the hauling capacity and also the cab space in this particular vehicle was huge because not only do I have the capability of hauling my boat, but it's perfect for my kayak. I can load my kayak in the bed of the truck. I can load up all of my equipment in the cab of the truck. If it's the dog, if it's everything, you know, and it's a beautiful truck and it's leveled. So a lot of my friends, like especially my girlfriends, they'll be like, "How do you drive this thing? We can't see over the hood," because they're not used to the perception
Yeah.
change when you have it leveled like that. And it's kind of a pain in the butt to load my kayak in when it's leveled like that because the tailgate sits really high. But once you drive it, you know, you get used to it and you learn. And the fact that I had the truck prior, I was used to it, and it made learning how to back up the trailer and everything a lot easier for me.
It's a mega cab that you have, right? Those are one of my favorite. I just love that body style. There's so much room in the back to load stuff, carry people,
Like
do
an
road trip. Yeah,
SUV.
with a bed on it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really amazed me how much, when I think of diesel trucks, there's different segments of it. There's that racing performance side, but the vast majority, like you mentioned, it's used to do a task, either haul something, tow a trailer, the longevity, all the other things. And this light bulb went off a couple of years ago where I'm like, nearly every diesel person that I know, they have another hobby they use that truck for, whether it's hunting, fishing, overlanding. There's lots of other things. So there's so many similarities in what we talked about with fishing and getting into the outdoors, and then using a truck that's capable to fulfill all these different tasks. It's really cool how it all comes together.
for sure. I mean, yeah, like I can't imagine life without a truck. Like I have another SUV, I have a Durango, but for me, I I need another truck, honestly, because you know, it definitely serves a purpose. And I think that's the cool thing about diesels, especially, is they're workhorses. They are made to, and I know that there's a whole other, you know, racing side of things and performance side of things, but for what I use my truck for and what I do with it on a daily basis, I mean, even yard work, even just going on like the place that we did the hog hunt in Florida. Like this is in the backwoods of Florida in the swamp, you know. So having a vehicle that's capable of like getting on those off-road locations and driving on the beach or whatever the case may be, knowing that I have something that is able to do all sorts of different tasks is crucial. And Maryland's such a crazy state because we have the mountains, we have the beaches, we have all the seasons, you know. So having something that I know no matter what weather situation we have, no matter what area I'm in, I have something that's reliable and that I know can get me from A to B. That's what drew me to that particular truck.
Well, if there's new ones that you're looking at in the future, we got a ton of episodes about a whole bunch of different, Ford, GM, and Ram. So I'm sure we've, probably chatted about those before on previous episodes. But it was really cool to connect with you. I saw so many similarities between not just your social media, but then talking with you and the passion that you have for it and how this is transforming. And it's so early on. You've had tremendous success that I look forward to talking with you in the future, 6 months
I
from
would
now,
love that.
a year from
Yeah.
now, because there's so many lessons that you've learned and that you're going to learn that, I'm learning stuff just talking with you, and someone who's listening is going to be thinking, I heard that episode and that's what I want to do. I want to do it in automotive. And I remember these tips and these things that Carly had said. So I think that's what's so important about having, a podcast and a conversation like this. And, for people who are listening, they want to connect with you. Maybe they want to see the types of fish. They want to maybe ask you a question. Maybe it's something they want to get into. What's the best way to find you on social media? Ask you a question.
So on Instagram, I'm Carly Watkins _outdoors. On TikTok, I think I'm just Carly Watkins Outdoors. And then on Facebook, I'm Carly Watkins Outdoors. So any of those platforms, I look at my messages. I do try to look at the requests too, because sometimes the ones don't always come through. But I have a website, carlywatkinsoutdoors.com, and any of those platforms can shoot me a message, shoot me a question. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody or if anybody wants to reach out or even just come to Maryland and come fishing, by all means, I'm all ears. So those are all of my social media platforms thus far. I'm working on YouTube, but that's a whole other beast. So we'll get there.
Well, it's really cool to hear your success, and I look forward to seeing how you grow, how your channels grow, the different platforms that you're on, and keep us updated. Keep us updated on new things that you're working on, or maybe you have truck questions or something, or you have a suggestion. I get a guest on to talk about shopping new trucks or something like that. It was
Sure.
really cool to chat with you, and I appreciate you taking the time to jump
Yeah.
on the Diesel Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, make sure and head on over to kershaw.kaiusa.com and use code 2024 Diesel40 for 40% off MSRP. It's a great way to save some money, get some really cool gear if you're in the market for a knife for hunting, fishing, EDC, or something around the job or around the house. They've got you covered with a bunch of different choices, different options for opening mechanisms, blade steel, blade shape, handle designs, and a whole lineup of knives designed to meet any budget. So just use code 2024 Diesel40 for 40% off MSRP. Also, our friends over at Target Sports USA, they've got a really cool membership program. It's $99 for 1 year, and in that time you get free shipping, whether it's one box that you order, 20 boxes, 50 boxes, or more. And if you're definitely like to do hunting, fishing, go to the range, do competitions, how much ordering and shipping costs can add up to throughout the year. So it's a great way to save some money. And also you get an instant 8% off, which is great. Plus, if you're looking for something maybe you can't find locally, they give you first notification of new product that's on hand on their website, so you can get that ordered up and headed your way. Part of the membership is you also get entered in to win 2 giveaways. One is an all-expense-paid hunting trip in Colorado that includes airfare accommodations, licensing, the meat processing, and also shipping back to you. It's a once-in-a-lifetime trip that you're automatically entered to have a chance to win. Plus, they give away an F-150 every year, which is cool to keep mileage off your vintage Cummins Duramax Power Stroke and have something to daily drive or take to the outdoors. And so you're automatically entered in to win both of those. Just go to targetsportsusa.com/dieselpc and it'll have all the details. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters: CUTTERUP Rob, Tyler Loewen at 23, Diesel J Cole, also Colby. We appreciate all their support. All of you who follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, podcast apps. We appreciate all your support here in year 8 of the Diesel Podcast and look forward to bringing you guys more of the content that you want to hear in 2024. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.